I didn't see you actually try hard once in that entire time. And so I wasn't super surprised with how it went.
Hey y'all, welcome back to The Struggle. It's me, Ryan. Hope you had an awesome weekend. And I am here in my car recording this intro right now. I'm stealing some Wi-Fi from the local Starbucks because I'm running the kids around to all their various different camp things, and I'm trying to get this podcast out to you on time. And that means I've had to step out of the podcast/utility closet. So my apologies if the audio on this part of the intro isn't as good as it normally is. The interview, which is about to come with our friend Nate Drolet, was done in the podcast/utility closet, so that should be fine. And I'm just going to be working from my car for the next couple hours here as I try to keep the plates spinning over here in my insane life. Is your life insane right now? Is it just me? I hope you're keeping it together better than I am. And I hope you enjoy this episode, this Road to V8 with Nate Drolet. Man, it's been a struggle, guys. It's just a struggle fest. I mean, I brought it upon myself. I took on two diametrically opposed goals at the same time, the road to the pyramid and the road to V8. And we talk about how that was a bit of a catastrophic miscalculation on my part as we get into this conversation here. But I'm just learning so much that I think it's okay that I bit off more than I could chew. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy this conversation here. Nate, on the back end, I'll tell you a little bit about how my climbing's been going. And then we'll, of course, have a monthly plog update in just a few days where I'll fill you in on all of the other spectacular failures. But I'm going to call them learning moments, teachable moments. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to dress up these failures as teachable moments, but I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try to church it up with a nice candy coating of sugar, like me and Nate talk about with gummy nerds in this conversation. Great gummy nerds topic in this conversation here. So anyway, fill you in more on that on the plug. Hope you're doing awesome. And if you're a Patreon member or an Apple subscriber, as always, there's a ton of great bonus content for you over there. And thank you again for your support. All right, there's no more avoiding this struggle bus. Let's just hop on. Let's punch our ticket to the final destination and get into this conversation here on the road to V8 with Nate Drolet. Yeah, man, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. How things been?
Hectic, springtime as a parent is almost as hectic as like the holidays. There's like always a trillion things happening at school as we like hurtle towards summer vacation. So
I'm sure. How old are your kids?
7 and 10.
Okay.
Great ages. So much fun. So many cool things happening. School plays and sports and climbing and camping. And yeah, it's a friggin' blast. But, precious little time for me to go throw myself at routes. Although I'm finding, it's been nice out at the Red. It got warm fast, as you know, it can do out here from like 50s to 80s in 4 days. But
sick.
It'll be back to the 50s next week. And that's just the season. Spring's always a tough one to predict.
Yeah, spring there is always tough. I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, you can sometimes get great days in March. And then sometimes it can snow in April.
Totally. And I always like it really cold, but it's been really hot. And so just seeking shade, having fun, trying to release expectations, enjoying myself. It's been pretty good. It's actually been a pretty chill season. I'm sure we'll do a full catch up because it's been a little bit since we've talked.
Yeah,
the whole winter season, I trained hard and I went out to Oregon and did some stuff in the gym and then some climbing at Smith and got out to the Red quite a bit. And now we're just kind of getting into a little tougher, warmer temperatures, but I haven't had much expectation, which is nice. I didn't have a big project this spring. I'm just, the goal has kind of been building the pyramid and then working on bouldering strength. And so I haven't been too stressed out by it. It's nice.
Nice. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. What about for you? You been climbing?
Yeah, mostly just been staying local. I had a weird nerve issue over the winter, like some weird neck stuff that kind of sidelined me for almost 5 months.
Oh, dude.
But yeah, I'm working with a PT now and it is moving in a good direction. So been kind of ramping my climbing very slowly back up. Yeah, but the weather's great and I can climb fine again. So
was it the route climbing that did it to you? All the pulling of the rope and, biting on the rope and all that stuff? Are you going to blame it on the routes?
Oh, I will always blame it on the routes. Actually, what's funny is I went and I did some arc training this morning just to prep for this whole podcast.
It's
Yeah,
great.
I've had like numbness in my hands since like my 20s. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I've had like weird nerve stuff and it showed up in a couple different ways. Yeah, and so it's kind of been a long term. I've worked with a couple PTs to try and get it taken care of. No real clue when it started or why, but yeah, just a matter of kind of
Interesting.
getting it figured out.
Yeah, sorry, dude. Sorry to hear about that. Sounds challenging. Although I'm happy to hear that you're feeling better. I see that you, at least one of the last posts you made, you were resetting the crab shack over there.
Yeah, I
Is that
actually
done?
have. It'll never be done. It lives in
Right.
flux. No, it's really funny because I got inspired because I was like, oh, like this nerve stuff is finally settling down. I can climb again. And without thinking too much about it, I was like, I want something fresh. So I just stripped the whole wall, which was a lot because I mean, I
Yeah.
had a few hundred holds up. And then the second I stripped it, I was like, oh no, I don't even really have a plan for what I'm doing.
Right.
But I mean, to me, route setting is a lot of fun. It's an enjoyable process. But when I first built my wall, my initial plan was to have taped route circuits on it. So I would have, 20 to 50 move circuits
Wow.
that I could go and do basically route training on.
Yeah.
And so I stripped the wall and I was like, you know what? We're finally going to do it. So that's what I have. I've got 4 routes up right now. They're all way too hard. I mean, it's hard to tell like how deconditioned I am after not climbing for so long, but I was like, oh yeah, this will be great. I'll have, 5'10, 5'11, a 12, and a 13. But it's a 35-degree wall.
Right.
And so I forget that, climbing consistently at 35 degrees is challenging. They're
Yeah.
all overcooked. I was like, oh yeah, this 5'10 like shouldn't be bad. Pulled on, got so pumped. It's like I don't know, it's like a 27 move climb. And I was like, oh no. Yeah.
I don't know any 5'10s at 35 degrees at the red, even if they're all mega jugs. I don't think there's any 5'10s at, maybe you get into the 10D category and you can get on some, I don't know, breakfast burrito or something like that. But maybe that's not even that steep at that part of the
No,
wall.
it's probably
there.
like 10 degrees, maybe 15.
Yeah,
I mean, even Oompa and Loompa, those are probably like 15 degrees,
right.
and that's, yeah, but it's a lot of fun.
At that angle, you're getting into 512 territory. You're getting into like Betaville pipeline or something like that, where it's like steep, but they're just mega jugs, but that's 12A.
yeah. So it turns out that's how that works. But it's a
That's
lot
good
of fun.
though.
It's great. I mean, it's funny because my wall is 7 feet and 2 inches tall. So in my mind, because it's so short, I'm like, well, it can't be hard. I know that doesn't make sense, but
Right.
just the optics of it kind of played with me when I was setting these. But yeah, so it's cool. And then I also have something that I really like that I did is I gridded out the feet. So I've got jug feet, which are essentially just anything that's like about an inch or inch and a half like deep. So there's a grid of those, and then I have a grid of the power company inductors,
Oh, God.
which are all small. Like they're all
Right.
probably, I don't know, maybe 6 mil, something like that. So I can do all the routes with only big feet or open feet or jibs only. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And to me, I feel like that is what a lot of hard sport climbing, especially out west, feels like. Is I'm not necessarily always grabbing much smaller holds, but I need to do, a lot of climbing on moderately bad holds, but on really small feet that I can put all of my weight into. That is my own personal crux with hard sport climbing out here.
I really like that idea because you're not having to, for those who have spray walls, you don't have to set a bunch of different versions or hard routes, if you will. You've got easy feet versus challenging feet. You can do one lap on the hard feet, then pop on to do the second lap on the easy feet. And then over time, maybe you do 2 laps in a row on the bad feet, 3 laps in a row on the bad feet. It's like such a cool way to make a route more difficult without then having to reset a bunch of different handholds and all of that. That's really smart, man. I like that.
I like it a lot. It's something that, it's funny. Chris Hampton and I were talking about this a while ago, the idea of having different foot size footholds on your home board. Because I know when he had the engine room, which was in Ohio, his whole spray wall, I think, had like 4 colors of feet. So it's like, okay, you can do it with green feet, which are the big, red or medium, blue or small, and black feet are just terrible. that's such a fun way of doing it because, yeah, you're not having to set individual feet and you can scale things so easily like that.
Yeah.
And then I was recently listening to an interview with Will Anglin who was talking about this same idea of, when we had both started climbing, most gyms didn't set with feet. It would be, okay, you get any jibs and then also just tracking.
Right.
So yeah, I like having that variety. Shockingly, it adds like 2 to 3 letter grades to each route.
Yeah.
Just by swapping feet. So it's been fun.
That's cool, man. Well, yeah, you don't need it to be harder, but you'll get there. The fitness will build and those little feet will come in handy. And I did see also you made a post as you were laying out all the holds. One of the guys that I climb with often out here, Tom, he started this wood hold company, Mana Holds. And I saw that you got a beautiful set of those. So shout out to Tom.
Really pretty crimps. I'm excited about those.
Yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Well, as soon as I learn how to crimp, I'll have to get some of those from him as well. But it's all jugs for me still. And shall we do a little recap of the road to V8? What, do you want to hear kind of how the last few months have gone? Do you want to, I sent you some videos of me just, flailing around on the board this morning. So those are hot off the presses. I got a session in before you and I connected here. How do you want to enter into this update here?
Yeah. Also, that's funny that you went bouldering and I went and did endurance work this morning to prep for this.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I would love to hear kind of how you feel like your winter went. How consistent were you? What did you learn? What went well? Knowing what you know now, how do you feel like you could improve your sessions going forward?
Yeah, I think like through the bouldering lens, I had some high highs and some low lows over the winter. And maybe talk about the highs first. I stayed very consistent and dedicated on my strength and power training and felt really good about it. I was doing it, typically I was lifting weights and doing conditioning 2 or 3 days a week and making good progress and good gains on that. Everything from finger work to bench press and deadlift and, everything kind of in between, like normal conditioning. And then I was also doing typically 2 or 3 days a week of very hard bouldering. And that would either be on the set problems at the gym or on a system board. Most often it was the Moonboard because that's kind of the only thing that I have access to at the gyms here. But sometimes I would be able to get out on something else, the occasional kilter session or TB2 if I was traveling. And just like really like dove into that. And I got out every once in a while. I got outside and we can talk about like I did manage to tick some routes and build part of that pyramid as well. Recently had a conversation with Eric Hurst about that side, just kind of the sport pyramid that I was building.
I listened to that one.
Oh, cool. So yeah, you'll have some context there. And again, some good wins there and certainly no shortage of struggles on that side of things as well. And mainly the struggle I think was just route fitness because I was very focused over the winter on building up the strength and the power. And so as a result, I was very happy with progress on the Moonboard, which is the main thing I've been able to measure myself against consistently over time, and was working up into the place where I could put down some V5s, not all of them, as you and I, I'm sure we'll talk about, but some at least in a session, some in maybe just even a couple of goes. And V4s were all, again, not all of them. I mean, the range on the Moonboard is wild. So, some V4s I still haven't been able to do, and some I would flash. But I could tell the power, the snappiness, understanding how to move on that board. I was starting to just learn more about just the importance of getting to each hold much faster and essentially projecting, just like having a projecting mindset on that board as well as at the set problems. And so I felt really good about that. And then it all culminated, like a lot of this training culminated with this trip out to Portland that I had at Portland Rock Gym in Beaverton with Emil Abramson, who came in. We shot some stuff together that's going to be coming out at the end of the month here. And the kind of capstone of that, and there will be some videos released, but I ended up doing 2 V7s at that gym. Consensus V7s, the setters there give a range. So they were listed, like they were tagged V6 to V8, and then the members vote, and they were both consensus V7s. One of them I would call like very much in my wheelhouse, like really long Red River Gorge kind of steep style boulder problem, and it went down in a few goes, so I wouldn't have taken a personal grade of V7 on that. But the other one took 2 sessions and a lot of coaching from Emil. It was very powerful, very throwy and holding swings and like shouldery, like not stuff I would typically consider in my wheelhouse. And that was a friggin' proud send. It's the hardest boulder I think I've ever done. And grade aside, it was one that maybe prior to going into this winter block, I would have taken a look at, maybe tried once or twice, and then just walked away and just been like, there is just no way. And I was really proud of doing that. So it was a killer like culmination of all of that. And then I went climbing at Smith Rock and spent some time with Alan Watts. And it was just like the absolute dream trip. And then I got home and my body just broke. And so that's kind of where the low period comes in. I'll pause here and we can talk about, that's a lot that I just covered there. But essentially, I think I peaked in early March and I've been like in a bit of a hole ever since because I just went so hard out there and got home and my body was just like not having it.
Man, that's awesome that you're able to stay consistent through the winter and also just have such a good trip out there. That's huge. And one thing that I really like hearing from this was you saying that this was a boulder, the harder of the 2v7s was a boulder that you normally would have walked away from and that you came back because this was a big thing. And frankly, for all sport climbers, this is so much of what bouldering is being able to just sit under problems for longer, being more stubborn. Can you be more stubborn than a rock? That makes a good boulder.
Right.
I love hearing that.
Yeah. And I really did try to embrace that 7-try rule that you shared with me the last time we chatted, which is just like, do not even make a judgment on a move or a problem until you've really given it 100% for 7 tries. And likely, as you and I discussed, it would lead to many more tries. Ultimately, it could take 50 tries or 100 tries, but at least mentally having that number 7 in my mind was very helpful because it's not 100. If I had 100 in my mind, it would be like very discouraging, but 7 is like, okay, I can rest here and like just spend 15 minutes just resting and giving it my all on this move. And ultimately that's what helped to unlock that V7 that I did in Portland was really committing to that and saying the first time, not even being able to touch the next hold, and the second time slapping it, and the third time almost getting purchase on it. And sometimes it wasn't linear progress, but essentially after 7 tries, I had enough feedback to say, well, shit, I'm making progress here. I guess I shouldn't walk away. And ultimately, again, it came together. I also think it really helped to have Emil there because he believed in me in a way that I didn't believe in myself. And I think if you were standing there with me, or like when we did our Google video sessions, having that perspective of somebody who seen a million people do a million things and just, like he was standing right there next to me saying, no, you're getting better. This is working. Let's stick with this. Where maybe even in my mind, I wasn't necessarily giving myself that credit yet. It made a huge difference. And yeah, it was a really proud session. I was psyched.
That's awesome. Having someone else there who can help bolster your belief makes such an enormous difference. And especially with bouldering, because bouldering is minute. Just the progress can be so tiny. And I'm sure you've experienced this to where you can feel like, okay, I've got great progress for the first 10 goes. The next 10 goes, it feels like it's almost non-existent.
Right.
But maybe to someone on the outside, they're like, oh no, it looks better and better. If nothing else, the difference in your posture of how you believe, it looks like you believe you're going to stick it now, which is a hilarious thing. Like the idea of, okay, you weren't any closer really, but you looked like you believed you were going to be closer. And that alone, huge win. I mean, that is the next step before actually sticking something. It's funny. I've got a funny story of one of my first 513s was snooker at the Red River Gorge.
Oh yeah.
When I was climbing on it, I think I did it like 5th go of the day, pulled on, felt awful. And I felt like I was just climbing so bad. And there's a little bit like kind of a bad shake at like the 1/3 mark. And I get there and I'm just like, dude, I feel terrible. My belayer was like, looking smooth, Nate. Yep, you're looking great. You got this. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm looking good. Okay, cool. Like, ended up taking it to the top from there and sent. Came down and I was like, oh man, cool. That was great. And my belayer immediately was like, dude, you look like dog shit up there. That looked terrible. I don't know how you pulled that off. Just complete lie. Like, yeah. I was like, hey, it works. But yeah.
Totally. I really do thrive on that. Some people, I guess people have different things that they respond to in terms of how they like their belay and all that. But I really thrive on that kind of positive feedback, like looking really good, chill, cruising it, that kind of thing. It's like those positive affirmations really work for me, whether they're true or not, or just, better holds coming, the age old, like the worst trick in the book. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, better holds coming, and sometimes it works. And I will say this also for working with Emil out there was that while it had that component, it also had professional coaching. And so he was able to look at me and say, if you can grab this hold 2 inches higher, you're going to be able to hold that swing so much better. And rather than bicycle this thing, just explode off of it and go to the next hold. You're wasting too much time trying to do this static. So there was genuine, actual like guidance and coaching happening along with the belief. And though I couldn't say for certain, I'm pretty confident that I wouldn't have been able to put that boulder together myself. Certainly not in 2 sessions without having a professional there standing next to me saying, try to hold it this way, try to twist your hips that way. And I think that's maybe a little bit of what I'm running into. I sent you some of those videos of those moon problems that I'm doing where it's so easy to write off what would be considered straightforward, powerful climbing, like moonboard climbing as, oh, I'm not powerful enough. Oh, I'm not strong enough. But I think what I'm starting to recognize is that there's just a lot of technique that comes into this that I think I lack, or maybe put better is I think there's a huge maybe area of opportunity, some low-hanging fruit here for me to learn how to boulder better rather than just get stronger. This episode here is supported by Fizzy Vantage, and just let me tell you guys real quick why I love Fizzy Vantage. Yes, their stuff is the best of the best when it comes to supporting my goals as a climber, and yes, it dissolves the best and tastes the best of any other powders, protein powders, collagen powders, any other mixes out there that I have tried, and I've tried all of them. But beyond all that, y'all, I just love that this company was created by climbers for climbers and is a very active member in the climbing community. Fizzy Vantage founder and legendary coach Eric Hurst has been a friend of mine for years now, but I've been using Fizzy Vantage products for years before I even had a podcast. And I got to know Eric. He's been giving back to our community as an author, a route developer, and a coach for decades now. And he created Fizzy Vantage to bring the best science-backed nutrition to our sport so that we can all feel and perform our best. I use their supercharged collagen and their PowerPlex vegan protein every single day to support my training and my recovery. It is crazy delicious. And most importantly, it works. Plus, Eric's going to be hooking you all up with a sick deal here just for listening to The Struggle. You can hit that link in your podcast app or use checkout code STRUGGLE15 over at fizzyvantage.com to save 15% off any full-priced nutrition order here in North America. Or you can pop over to the Banana Fingers and Epic TV online shops if you are in Europe. All right, y'all, I just want to take a quick second here to tell you about some Voodoo Magic chalk that I've tried out recently. It's by Rungny. You guys know Rungny. It's Magnus Mitbo's company. They've been supporting the show for a really long time now, which I love. Thank you, Rungny. But this chalk that they just came out with, I don't even know if you can call it chalk. It's called Maglock, and it's like chalk. It's a super expensive type of chalk for a bag of it, but you only use a teaspoon. And it goes on your clean hands, and you rub it around on your clean hands, and that's kind of like your magic little base layer. I tested this stuff out with Emil Abrahamson when we were out in Portland shooting some videos together. And we did like a side-by-side test hanging from a giant, nasty sloper in the gym. And by far, when we put the Maglock on first and then used like regular mag dust afterwards, we hung way longer than when we were just using regular chalk. So like if you've got a project and you're like, look, I need that extra little edge to level up and send this thing, check out the Maglock. It's just wild how it feels and how it works. I don't need to sell it. Just try it and you'll see the difference. You can use code STRUGGLE and get 10% off pretty much everything over at Rungny. You can get a bundle, which will score you some free shipping. And again, if you use that code STRUGGLE over at rungny.com, that also helps me to continue to make these shows that you're listening to.
I love this. Okay, I've got a bunch of thoughts. And also I love that you segued us to this. The Moonboard's a very funny training tool in that a lot of the macro beta of right hand goes here, left hand goes here is kind of solved for you. There's some of it for sure. And watching you, I was like, especially with your benchmarks, I was like, I almost feel like I should just tell you what beta to use so that we can have more consistency time to
Right.
time. Cause it's like, hey, just on John Jagar Brett, just bring the foot in, you know, things like that. But there is this interesting belief that people have around the Moonboard in that, well, either you're strong enough or you're not. You can send it or you can't. I've even heard people say you can't project on the Moonboard because there's no beta to solve. What are you going to fix?
Right.
But the thing is, there isn't much macro beta to solve for of left hand goes here, right hand goes here, I twist or I'm square. That's kind of taken care of for you because it is so simplistic. But the micro beta, there is an infinite amount. How is my timing? Like, how is my speed? Am I generating from my hips or my foot or my upper body? Because there's times for all three of those. Like, it's not always just generate from the hips. How am I grabbing this hold? Even though this move that I'm doing isn't the crux move, what if I slow it down so I can hit this hold so perfectly that when I'm going for the crux move, I'm now even better set up? There's so many little tiny details, and that is what hard projecting looks like. That is even for the force, or any sport climb. Yeah, step one, let's get all the beta. Step two, let's generally refine the beta. But then from there, we're looking at pacing. We're looking at all the tiny nuance. And so I love that you're leaning into this and saying, I think I could also just get better at bouldering.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm feeling. And you can feel the difference, whether it's on the board or a set problem or on a kilter. I'm going to be able to spend more time on kilter boards coming up, which I'm excited about, where you can maybe thrash your way through something and then without getting any stronger whatsoever, get on it again and have it feel a grade easier. And obviously the only thing that's changing there is that it's some refinement is happening in there. And yeah, for me, I think I'm recognizing just as a sport climber as well as a boulderer. And to your point, bouldering just distills it down to even more of a potent mixture there. I think I just have a lot of opportunity with my technique. And I'm not sure that seems like the hardest thing to work on. I can work on my finger strength. I can work on my power. How does one get better at bouldering if we're taking out strength and power components?
I think there are a few things you can do. One is if you're climbing with better people all the time, watch them and talk with them about their climbs, not just yours, also about yours. But yeah, if they're struggling on a crux, talk with them about it. Be like, hey, what are you thinking about? What are you focusing on? What are you trying to do differently? Because I do think this is a great opportunity that's missed by a lot of people when they climb with much better climbers. Like, I used to climb with people much, much better than me. Like, I was climbing V5, they were climbing V14. And it was very easy to almost take a step back and be like, oh, this is a different sport. Like, they play a different game entirely. And it took me a long time to start trying to be more engaged in their process as well, especially if you're climbing outside. I'm sitting at the V14. I can't even do the stand starts.
Right.
So yeah, it took me a while to be like, oh, I'm actually going to stop and pay more attention to what are the tools they use to climb better. What are the things they seem to do automatically that I find very challenging? Like, I may think this thing is super important. And this was actually kind of interesting. I climbed with two guys who both climbed V14 and then much harder even. And one of them could explain, I could say, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. And one of them would be like, I don't even know what that is. And the other one would be able to say, I remember when I used to struggle with that. And that makes sense that you're struggling with this. I don't think about it now. I couldn't even tell you how to conceptualize it now, but I do remember that being a thing. And so try to pay attention to, okay, what do they do well? What do they do automatically? But have these conversations. Yeah, if you're climbing with Kyle and he's trying a big jump move to a crimp or whatever, listen to how he talks about it. Ask him what he's focusing on. Have these conversations and really engage in it, because you can still, even though Kyle, almost doubles your V grade, it doesn't matter. There's still so much to learn from these other climbers who are great climbers who've been climbing for a long time. So yeah, try and absorb as much as you can, because climbing around them and having them cheer you on is amazing, and having them give you feedback is wonderful. And I do think that being coachable maybe is one of the most underrated skills for progress in climbing. Being able to just kind of detach your ego away from, this whole process. It's really easy to get hung up on being like, hey, stop spraying at me. I want to figure out my own thing, which is cool. And I get it, because like they want to figure out our own problems. And I think that's good for learning. But if you are someone who has a wealth of knowledge, if you have a bunch of people with a wealth of knowledge, bro, steal from them. Just take everything you can. If anything, I think you kind of have to put your ego in the backseat to a degree to just admit, hey, you know what? Literally everyone I climb with knows more than me. I'm going to try and do more listening than talking here.
I love the curiosity about the climbs that they're doing as well, because oftentimes if we're sessioning together, they will be helpful for me as I'm working on some V5, or I even pulled up some V6s the other day, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Here's the crux, and here's how I do it. And that's helpful, really helpful. But then they'll pull up a V9 or something, and I'll watch them and just be amazed, but I won't dissect kind of what they're going through in their projecting process. I really like that. So I will incorporate that. I appreciate that idea. And well, now I have an opportunity for you, because I sent you. So for the listener, I had my session this morning. And if you recall from prior Road to V8 episodes, Nate he identified these, I call them baseline problems or benchmark problems, but they weren't necessarily, maybe they were all benchmark problems on the Moonboard, but essentially he chose 2 V5s, 2 V6s, and 2 V7s on the 2019 Moonboard. And you can look at my prior posts to see which those were, because I posted them. But anyway, that he kind of handpicked for me to see how my progress would come. And so the idea here was for me to try them and video myself, and then not work them, not project them, but do other climbs and, continue to hopefully improve as a boulderer on and off the Moonboard. These were for the Moonboard because that's what I had access to, or have access to right now. And so I haven't revisited them until this morning, where I pulled up the 2 V5s, which is Neon Nights in Ganja Garnbrett. And those are listed as V5s. And so anyway, I sent Nate the videos. And so I sent you a few videos this morning, right? Me trying those again. And I haven't referenced the videos that I did when I first tried them, but I cannot imagine there's much improvement. I literally could not get my ass off the mat for either of them. You chose V5/V30s for me to try.
I did.
And then I sent you videos of 2 other V5s, one that I sent second go on this session that I was psyched about. It was not, I don't think it was like really soft. I mean, it might be soft, but like it was very hard. I worked each individual move for a while after kind of blowing the flash, and then I got the second go. And then a V5 that I had projected with you over the course of some time. And I don't know the names of those, but I'll maybe try to link to them or post them. But anyway, I'm curious.
The second one is Over the Hill.
Oh yeah, Over the Hill is that V5 that I am psyched that I'm making progress on. And then I forgot what the one was that I sent, in fairly short order there. But this kind of, we've talked through this, but it's essentially within a grade on the Moonboard in particular, and probably on other boards as well. Some are going to feel very achievable and some are going to feel very impossible. And in those 4 problems that I sent you, they kind of represent that. In fact, like from couldn't even get my butt off the ground to sending in short order and everything in between. So I don't know. How do you want to chat through these? What did you see when I sent these over to you?
I've got plenty of thoughts. Okay. So first off, when you were trying the 2 baseline boulders, what was going through your head? Like, how did that feel? I want to know what your internal narrative was.
I was really discouraged, to be honest, because I feel like I have in the last 4 months made, while not meteoric progress, I think I've made progress. And as evidenced by what I shared, about my Portland trip and just climbing other things, just at the gym and at the crag. I sent the first time I've sent a 12B in a session and flashed a 12A. And, I feel like I'm improving as a climber, but I did not feel like I had improved whatsoever on those. And again, I haven't compared them. I wasn't working them hard. Like I was literally just basically was trying to flash, right? Like it had been 4 months since I'd tried these. I wasn't like figuring out positioning. You weren't coaching me. It already sounds like you've identified some massive technical errors that I've done on these, but both of those problems start so hard for me. Mm-hmm. It's not like I could even get 1 or 2 moves in and feel like, oh yeah, I'm kind of into this thing. It's just like literally could not get my butt off the mat. And so, yeah, I was pretty discouraged, to be honest.
Totally fair. How did you expect them to go coming in? You kind of hinted at this, but I want to hear your just exact words.
I expected them to be still very hard because I recalled them being very hard when I tried them. And even some of the guys that I was with, I think like Kyle and Gray were there, and they were like, ooh, Nate picked some tough ones, you know? So I didn't expect them to come together, but I expected to do better. I think my expectation was like, I should be able to make a couple links here, you know, maybe put 2 moves together, and like I couldn't put 1 move together.
Final question before I like kind of share my thoughts on this, because I did go back and I watched all the old videos, watched these. Your session this morning, were you climbing with anyone else? And if so, were they there for the full duration of your session?
No, I was by myself this morning, actually. It's kind of a rare, had the whole room to myself.
Okay. It was really interesting going back and watching you first try these baselines, because you were with someone else, and I can actually hear them cheering for you every time you try a hard move.
Yeah.
You tried very hard. The first time you tried these, watching you this time, you pulled on kind of, it looked like you were just like expecting it to just kind of happen. Man, bouldering's hard. Even when you are strong enough to do a thing, you're going to have to try. You will have to try almost 100% just to even have a dog in this race. And watching you on it, you kind of were just like pulling on. You're like, oh, this is hard. Okay, next. Oh, this is hard. Like, yeah. I didn't see you actually try hard once in that entire time. And so I wasn't super surprised with how it went. I will say, actually, initially I was like, oh no. I was like, what happened? Because I haven't talked with you yet. I was like, did all the training go poorly? This looks, because I hadn't looked at the old ones first. I started there and I was like, this looks terrible, frankly. This just looks bad. Has he just been sport climbing? Because he looks like he's a sport climber right now. You know, how do I make this move as easy as possible without trying hard at all? I was like, oh, this is terrible. And then I watched the video of you on Over the Hill, which, you know, we've done coaching sessions on, I have experience on. You were a different climber. You pulled on with confidence. You tried hard, and it looked phenomenal. I was like, oh, you could tell me these were different days entirely. And then I went back and watched the old video. Comically, you used better beta a few times in the original time, mostly just of where your feet are on the kickboard.
Right.
But you tried so hard when you did those baselines for every single move, and I could hear someone cheering you on the entire time. And yeah, you tried really hard. You actually didn't do much worse this time than that last time, but I could tell your level of exertion was dramatically lower.
Yeah.
I think it's without question you are climbing harder and better now than you were. Like, for sure, especially on Over the Hill, looking at that, I was like, oh, this is a different climber. But, you know, this is an important lesson with bouldering, especially like this is an issue a lot of people have with hard limit bouldering is just because a boulder might take you 10 days doesn't mean every single go of 10 days that you don't have to try really hard. There are a lot of skills that are really useful in sport climbing that sabotage you in bouldering. Say, and vice versa. You know, a good skill for bouldering is, can you put it in all-wheel drive, squeeze every muscle in your body to just do a single move? You do that sport climbing, you're not going to get to the first bolt. You know?
Right.
One big issue that I run into when I coach sport climbers who are trying to boulder harder, or sport climbers who have maxed out their endurance grade, and now every time they actually hit a hard move, they're like, oh, it feels impossible.
Yeah.
It's because they're still trying to, you know, find the right body English and do everything just to make it absolutely easy before they ever attempt to try hard. Where with hard bouldering, you're going to have to do all the body English. You need perfect timing and position and shape and all of this. Oh, and also you're going to have to give like at least a 9 out of 10 just to know if this is even possible. Because if you only give a 7 out of 10, you might not leave the ground.
Yeah. I really think you've identified a soft spot for me there. And it's not a blind spot. I've been aware of it. There's a high level of discomfort for me to put in max effort on singular moves. And part of it is probably just because I've been like a route climber for so long and that's what I gravitate to. Part of it might be genetic. Maybe I'm, I lean heavily slow twitch or whatever. And I think maybe just part of it is a personality thing. I like that's probably a learned discomfort to be able to, if nothing else, tolerate and then maybe one day embrace. But I've had conversations with, when I have boulderers on the show, I've talked with Drew Ruana about it and Will Bosey about it and Alex Puccio about it, because it's like almost something that I revere. It's like this mysterious thing where I'm like, how do you give everything to a move? And I think you're right that I very much didn't exhibit that when I was trying your baseline problems there. I do think I've made progress on that. Like over the hill, you saw,
Looked great on that.
Some others, like when I was with Emil and he was cheering me on, I gave it everything. I gave it everything to the point where, like, literally, I've never had bicep tendon issues, and like I could not use my arms for like hours after sending that thing. Like I gave it everything I had and probably then some. And so this is just like a little moment in time, but I think you're right. Like when I tried your baseline problems there, I had an expectation that I would have made some significant and noticeable improvement. I probably tried pretty hard. I think I tried pretty hard to like start those. Mm-hmm. They were hard. It didn't work, right? Like I had a hard time getting my butt off the ground. And I think that feeling of discouragement came in and just sapped any sort of like stoke or willingness to like give it my all. And to your point, this was a session by myself. And maybe if I had the crew there like I did the first time, they would have been like, dude, you're not trying. Let's go. Give it everything. But I didn't have that. And so like I think that discouragement probably took over and I was just like, kind of went through the motions. And that's maybe just like a mental thing that I need to work through as a route climber. If there's a hard move that's a few moves in and I feel like I can carry a little bit of like progress and momentum into it, I think I'm more willing to try hard. Whereas like you saw on Over the Hill, whereas with those two in particular problems that you gave me, I don't know if, I'm sure there's cruxes that are higher up, but for me, the start move is really hard. And so like, I'm not carrying any sort of progress into it. I'm just like literally, I have to try hard off the deck. And I don't think I've ever had to do that in my life.
And that makes total sense. Yeah. It is a very challenging thing with bouldering. And I do think this is something that, watching you on Over the Hill, I think it's something you've definitely improved at. And this is also a very just natural thing to experience. And maybe we talked about this, it might have been one of our coaching sessions last summer when we were talking about you going back to the force. And I was like, hey, if you pull onto the force for the first time since the spring and it feels amazing, cool. But if it doesn't, that's also fine, because, you've got multiple months of not being on it. All that refined beta might be a little bit shaky. And also, you just haven't been spending as much time on rock. We want, after all of our training, for things to just feel amazing right off the bat. But if we expect it, bad things can kind of happen. It's super common for people to get really discouraged coming back to projects after a long time if it doesn't immediately go well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's normal what happened. And I don't want to say I expected it, but I wasn't surprised when I was like, oh yeah, it looks like he just anticipated it going a little bit better. And then when it didn't immediately, it kind of went downhill.
Yeah. So like, what do I hit some smelling salts while I'm before I pull on? I mean, what's the hack here, Nate? It's hard. Those are hard problems to start.
They are. I mean, I think giving yourself a few shots at it before you pass any judgment is useful, because also just purely from a recruitment standpoint, if we're looking at Janja Garnbrett, it's also a very bunched, weird move. Every hard move in bouldering is weird for the most part. Like when actual true bouldering. So a lot of times it just takes getting your body recruited and ready to do a challenging move.
Right.
So yeah, if I can go out to a project that I've got 5 days into, even they could all be recent. And if the first move is, a really awkward, big cross slap move, yeah, if I miss it on the first go, well, duh. Yeah, it's hard. Like,
right.
It's going to take me a few goes to get dialed to this move. Hopefully it takes me less goes to dial in this time than last time. That'd be great. But yeah, you can't expect things to go well right off the bat. And then having a pre-climb routine can be helpful. Something that kind of helps you pull the trigger. This can look like taking a few breaths, running beta through your head before you go, just reminding yourself before you pull on to try hard. Even something as simple as that is, I'm going to take a deep breath, try hard, pull on.
Yeah.
Building some sort of trigger like that, I think, can be useful.
I like it. I think that'll be a valuable skill for me to continue to develop, because that will also help on routes. If I'm coming off of a rest and punching into a crux, like being able to like essentially go from rest mode to dump the tank mode will be helpful as well. And there's some routes that I've been working on recently that kind of require that. What about technique? Because you alluded to saying, oh, I wish you'd used a different foot, or that's interesting how I was doing it. You identified these problems specifically for me to not project, but will there be a benefit to, as you mentioned earlier, maybe having a little bit of a coaching session with you on them just to establish what would likely be the right sequence or where I'm putting my feet, or so like there's no guesswork there. So then at least I have confidence of, while I can't do the move right now, at least I know this is probably how the move will work when it does work. And then again, maybe not project them, but at least have that understanding so that when I come back in a few months after the spring season ends, I'm going to do some more, focused bouldering training all over the summer. Here is going to be like, boulder focused summer for Ryan. Then when I come back to them, at least I have a sense for what I'm doing. Or do you prefer to keep me a little bit in the dark still?
I mean, you could go both ways with this, because on one hand, if we're looking at a purely physical metric, yeah, just telling you, hey, use these feet on the kickboard instead of those, I think would go better. But I mean, if you figure it out on your own, that's also a sign that we're moving in the right direction. I wouldn't be upset with that either way. As far as technique goes, yeah, so I think this could go either way. I'm honestly, because there are not that many changes, I'd be fine with just telling you, hey, let's do this for this move, this for this move. Because also I think that can give you a little bit more confidence in, okay, it's not the beta. It is, let's go to something else. And this actually circles me back around to a different point that I wanted to bring up. And that is, when you are bouldering, you had talked about how you had asked, okay, how do I work on technique? And we had talked about climbing with other people who are better. I think another thing beyond climbing with people who are better than you is anytime we fall, we kind of run through a list of reasons. Or, it's okay, well, what do I try and work on? And some of these can also look like excuses. Ideally, the first thing you should be asking is, was this the right beta, essentially? Because anything else below this, if you're using bad beta, it doesn't matter how hard you try if you're going right hand when you should be going left.
Yeah.
But what we do after that, I think, is really important. Some people might immediately say, oh, I can't hold this hold because I'm not strong enough. Or they might say, this foot's in the wrong place. I recently heard an interview with Will Englund where he said, the foot's not in the wrong place, you're in the wrong place.
Right.
I love that. But yeah, we can have these excuses. And some people might say they're objective facts. I disagree. What I think is good is everyone should kind of curate their own list. And for you, it is, am I using the right beta? Am I trying hard? After that, we can start looking more at minutia. Where is my momentum coming from? Am I in a good shape? And when I use the phrase shape, I broadly mean square versus twisting. And if so, how much? Same thing. If you're flagging, how much are you flagging? Kind of your orientation to the wall.
Yeah.
And for you, I would like to lean on these. We know you're strong enough to do these boulders. From a pure metrics standpoint. You've done the work and you're continuing to do the work. So if you're doing the work outside of the bouldering gym and at the Moonboard, we don't need to think about that right now. That's not useful, and it steals energy from becoming a better climber by saying, my hands just aren't strong enough. And we've had enough coaching sessions to where you've been like, Nate, I don't know, man. Like, I just don't feel like I can hold this hold. There's no way I can do this move. And then we just kind of work through, hey, okay, what is the direction your foot is on this hold? Where's your momentum coming from? You have 4 limbs. How much force are you putting through all 4? You're like, oh, I got wait through 2 of them. It's okay, let's put it in all-wheel drive. And we do these things, and suddenly it becomes a move you can do every single time. You didn't get any stronger. If anything, you got more fatigued by trying this move over and over. So for you, throw out, and this is not advice for everyone, because some people, sure, getting stronger is great. Absolutely do it. But you're already taking care of that as a baseline. So when you are at the bouldering wall, especially your time is very valuable. We only have, if you've only got 90 minutes a week to moonboard, I don't want a second of that spent thinking, I wish I was stronger. It's not useful, and it's not going to make you a better climber in that moment.
Yeah, real talk, Nate. Oof, I like it. It's interesting too, because 2 of the things you just touched on there were echoed by conversations that I've had. One, when I was with Emil, he knows that my goal is like the, kind of the road to V8. And after I did that problem and just spent the weekend with him in general, he just kind of pulled me aside. He's like, you're strong enough to do those things right now. Like from what I've seen, I know that you could do that. He's like, you could probably do V7 on the Moonboard right now. You're just not applying it quite right. You got more to learn. You got some other areas, but like your deficiency right now isn't your pinch strength or whatever I was complaining about at the time. And so I think that echoes, to what you just said there. And then the other thing was the application of the force to the hold. And that was a conversation that I had with Tyler Nelson not too long ago, where there was a study done. I don't think he did the study, but there was a study done where holds on a wall were all linked to like force gauges, and they compared elite climbers to or pro climbers to advanced climbers or something. Like there was a bit of a gap there, but they were all, well-trained climbers. And the elite / pro climbers were putting a considerable amount of less force through the handholds when they were climbing the problems than the others. And so essentially finding ways to use feet or positioning or whatever better, so that while they were stronger, much stronger than the other group, they were actually using less at the end than the other group. And so there was a huge chasm there. Like they could have just overgripped everything, but they just didn't have to. And so I'm assuming that comes with some mastery, and I'm far from that yet, but I probably am better doing that than, people who are V2 climbers. It's just something that will come with time. But both of those things that you just said there, I think land importantly for me. And now I just need to figure out essentially how to develop them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was actually a Lattice YouTube video that he was referencing.
Oh,
that they did. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It might have been a conversation that I had with Tom. Like I talked with, it's all a blur.
I know exactly what you mean. It's funny. I was mentioning something the other day and I was like, oh yeah, I remember Tom Randall saying this. And someone was like, can you give me a link to that? And I was like, no, I cannot. I've listened to so many podcasts, watched so many videos, and have conversations directly with so many of these people that my ability, like I can sometimes, but if it's just like it's like, I wish I could, but also, someone like Tom is prolific. It's like, I can't sift through the hundreds of hours of him talking.
Right.
But it's great information to sift
through. But it
through.
exists. I think it exists. I'm not making it up. I think it exists that these more advanced climbers are actually using less or feel the need to use less, when they're actually climbing. But all of that makes sense. I mean, it's the things that you just said to me. I just need to kind of figure out how to do it. And part of it will come with just doing more of it. But maybe there's other specific things that you have in mind that I could focus on as we wrap up the spring season. I still want to get out to the red. There's pyramid building that I would be very happy if I could put down some 12 Bs and Cs or maybe a D somewhere in the next couple of months here. But then as it gets too hot, I'll still have some fun days out at the red, but I'll essentially probably look at, late June through September to really focus heavily on this V8 road to V8 mission, and would love your thoughts around that.
I've got a few thoughts. One in particular is that since we're trying to level up your bouldering, because I did listen to, I listened to the Eric podcast, and I loved everything he said, but we're competing. I want you over here. It's like anytime I've got an athlete who's like, yeah, I'm really into road cycling right now. And anytime they're like, Nate, do you think I should do less? I'm like, yeah, of course I think you should do less. Duh. I want you to rock climb harder. That's my job. Yeah. I don't care about your road cycling, but I do care about your sport climbing.
That's right. And Eric, to your point, what you're alluding to here is Eric saying, we need to be at least doing one day, but probably more days. At least right now he wants me doing 3 days of route climbing, like endurance building, volume fitness. But I will be transitioning out of that. The idea here, of course, is the spring season is in its waning days. So then I'll at least have a few focused months where I can go hard on bouldering, and maybe longer if the goal is to send a V8 outdoors in December or January or whenever kind of the season is going to be prime for me to get down to Chattanooga, or we can talk about that. But essentially, there's going to be a block of time here where I really want to dive into that. And then Eric might call me in August and say, you better be doing some days on the treadwell. But yeah, go ahead and make your pitch, the devil on the shoulder here.
I like that I'm the devil. Okay. I'll take it. So my pitch is that depending on how long this spring season goes for, I know he wants you to do 3 endurance workouts a week. I would love it if you split it 50-50. And if anything, hear me out on this. There's a trap of always wanting to feel topped off in preparation. You always want your fingers to be 100%. You always want you came back and you're like, I am not as fit as I was when I sent the force. I want my peak fitness back.
Right.
But the amount of work it would take to go from 90% fitness to 100% isn't 10% more work. That might be 40% more endurance work that it takes to do that. My argument as the devil says, let's steal that 40%, pump it into bouldering. And then I would say just be okay with not having 100% of your fitness, because there's a lot of things you can do with that. If anything, I love being able to switch back and forth between bouldering and sport and kind of losing a little bit of each. Adam Onder talked about this well over a decade ago, about how he felt that whenever he would go sport climbing for a long time and then come back to bouldering, it would always level him up, because he would lose all of this power. He'd come back so much weaker, but he had the confidence of someone who knew he still could boulder. So he would come back to bouldering. He'd be like, I'm going to be more savvy. I'm going to be a little more tricky. I've got all this better technique from all my sport climbing. I'm going to apply that to still try and climb hard. And slowly the power would come back, but now he's a better climber with power. And the same thing can happen with sport climbing. You come back to sport climbing, still fit. Like, you're not completely deconditioned. You can go out and still have a great day of sport climbing, but you can't just hang out and shake on anything anymore. Good. What else can you do? Can you sprint? Can you find knee bars? Find hand jams? Can you stay more composed when you get pumped? Because here's the thing. If you can climb 513, you can climb 511 plus pretty pumped. Like, you can stay, as long as you're composed. You're weighting your feet, you're using momentum, you're not trying to overpower and over control things, where maybe ultra fit Ryan, you can just over control 511 and guarantee it gets done because you're fit enough to do that. If there's more of a pump clock now because you don't have that fitness, amazing. I love that for you, because we're going to need that when you're trying to climb 513 consistently. So that's my pitch.
Yeah, it's a good pitch. So what are you offering? Like donuts, or what's the so I'm trading a day of endurance training. And what you're offering me is essentially more power, more strength, which I think is great. Hopefully more donuts too. But in terms of what that looks like, you like 2 days a week of some route climbing, whether it's out at the Red or maybe on the treadwall or whatever in the gym, and then 2 days a week of bouldering. And both of those bouldering days you like being limit bouldering, or do you want one being limit and one being more volume based? If I give you 2 days, if I grant you my 2 days, what should I be doing?
Okay, so as any good boulderer should do, I think get a giant bag of Nerds gummy clusters. That's a secret sauce right now. Anyone will tell you.
They're the best. Sidebar on that, and this is like coming like third hand, so I have no idea if this is accurate information, but I was talking to a guy at the Crag recently who's like into racing, triathlons and that kind of thing, who was saying that apparently the makeup of Nerd gummies is the same as energy gels, and they're cheaper and easier to eat and easier to transport and more delicious, of course. And so like apparently a lot of triathletes have moved from the energy gels to Nerd gummies. Now I don't know if that's true. I cannot verify this, but I like it. I
don't
what
need
I was
it
hearing.
verified, because I've already got I've got bags of them around. Like, I love, slight tangent, I mean, anyone who follows me on Instagram knows I love really weird food.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a huge fan. Atrocities.
Right.
Anything that it's clear this is probably going to be a one-time release from a company. They're just testing it out. I'm going to get them because I want to know what this is. Like Cinefuego Toast Crunch, which was ultra spicy cinnamon toast crunch. I've got 2 bags still at my house. I love these things. And the first time I saw Nerds gummy clusters, I was like, this clearly can't stay around. These are weird. Grabbed a bag. And now I'm like, I hope they never leave. This has to be a staple. Fortunately, it seems like all of America is hooked right now.
Yeah, they're not going to leave. And again, this is, I cannot verify this, but the same guy, the guy that I was talking to, Matt, he's pretty obsessed with Nerds gummies. He was saying that he's an accountant, so I believe him on the numbers side of things. He's a CPA, that Nerds was doing like 50 million a year, like Nerds or whatever. And they came up with Nerds gummies, tested them, do those focus groups and all that stuff. Universally got terrible feedback. People were like, this is not what, you can't combine these. It's weird, it's soft, it's crunchy, you can't do it. The fine people at Nerds were like, we're doing it anyway. We like them. And it 10x the revenue, 500 million now. Like Nerds gummies saved, the Nerd Corporation or whatever, whoever makes that candy. And so I don't think they're going anywhere, man. In fact, you might see some, Nerd gummy and Fuegos sometimes, and you will be very happy when it happens.
Will be. I believe that because I can't remember the last time I had Nerds. These are great though. So yeah, step 1, bag of Nerds gummy clusters.
Done.
I forget what our even starting question. Okay, second day of bouldering. I do think keeping 1 limit bouldering day is good. I would say trying to still climb with better climbers on your second day would be useful. I like adding in more commercial climbing for you, like commercial set climbing.
Right.
You're going to have more variation, more angles, more hold types. Also, I'm a little less worried about overdoing it. Board climbing's aggressive. It's very effective, very potent. You get a lot of bang for your buck. But for you, I wouldn't mind if we had a little bit more volume in. So maybe throttling back the difficulty. 1 day's limit bouldering, 1 day, kind of short mini projects, things that you're going to do in 2, maybe 3 sessions. Maybe that's like the meat of your climbing, but otherwise, do some new boulders, try and flash some things, do stuff like that. I think that would be useful, but that's just going to help make sure you're getting a little bit more hard climbing mixed in throughout the week so that when the summer comes and we want to ramp up, it's not ramping up kind of from the ground.
Yeah. Dig it. Okay. I think that's good. I won't run it by Eric. Don't tell Eric that this is happening. But I like that because I do know that we're on the tail end of the spring season here. And so I don't want to feel like I'm starting from scratch. So I think kind of ramping up into those 2 boulder days, 2 route days, 2 fitness days is good. I am trying to get outside at minimum 1, but I'm aiming for 2 days a week. So it might just, my route days, if you will, might just be at the red for May and into June, as long as the weather allows. And then I'll do some hard bouldering in between. And yeah, man, I'm grateful as always. This is like a really humbling, but also motivating and enlightening journey for me to be on this road to V8. It's not one that I thought I would find myself on, but I'm going to keep my eye on the prize and know that it's going to pay off in big ways for me as a route climber down the road. And maybe you'll make a boulderer out of me yet. We'll see.
We'll see. I appreciate you trusting me with all this. And this is fun. It's been a lot of fun for me to get to see you kind of lean into this process more than just, this is my training time for routes. So it's been cool.
All right. Thank you, Nate, so much. I appreciate some tough love. I appreciate some real talk. I appreciate some gummy nerds. And now it's on me. I'm going to try hard. I think that's what I need to like buckle the heck down, you guys, and try hard. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm psyched. And it's turning warm out here at the Red. So I'll talk more about this in the upcoming Plog episode. And by the way, if you're not familiar with the Plog episodes, Plog stands for, I don't even remember. Podcast log. It's like blog, but Plog. But anyway, I put those out pretty much every month for Patreon members. And there's a free tier. You can go over to like Patreon and like join the free tier. And then you can get access to those. And it's just like where I riff about my training and how my climbing's going and my goals and all that. So the one that's coming up in a few days here, I think you will, if you're a fan of Schadenfreude, if you just want to delight in how much I have been failing and struggling over the past month, then swing on over to Patreon and join the struggle bus. Misery loves company. Or, you know what, if you're crushing it and you're out there and you're doing great, maybe I need that more. So jump in there and tell me how awesome you're doing. It'll help lift my spirits. But I'm psyched to be on this journey with you, whether you're on the struggle bus or the Send train. Either mode of transportation is accepted here. I love them both, and I'm just really, really psyched to be on this journey with you. All right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and just roll the old canned credits and the music in a second here, but one last request, if I could make of you. Could you rate and review the show, like the 5 stars, or give me a nice word or something like that? It actually really makes a difference to help the show find a bigger audience, and I love making this show. I love connecting with you all, so if you haven't already rated/reviewed on Apple or Spotify or whatever, it only takes a second, so please do that. Okay, awesome. Have a great day.
Huge thanks and appreciation to our show sponsors who have brought you this episode at zero cost. Check your show notes for the links and special discounts to those brands that are only available to Struggle listeners. And by the way, you can see all of the show's awesome sponsors and special deals by just popping over to thestruggleclimbing.com/deals. Hey, did you know that the Struggle's carbon neutral in partnership with the Honnold Foundation? They are just doing amazing work to bring clean energy to communities around the world. You can get inspired by their latest grant recipients over at honnoldfoundation.org, and then just toss them some love if you can, even a few bucks a month. They're doing such cool and impactful work. And lastly, The Struggle is a proud member of the Plugtone Audio Collective, a diverse group of the best, most impactful podcasts in the outdoor industry. This show was produced and hosted by me, Ryan Devlin, and edited by Glen Walker. All right, that clips the anchors on this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked it, and if you like this show just in general, would you consider sharing it with your climbing friends? The more who listen, the closer that I will get to making this my full-time gig, which would be so cool. So thank you in advance for sharing this episode and also rating and reviewing it if you got a hot second. Really appreciate you. I hope your training and your climbing are going great. And if you're struggling like me, well, at least the struggle makes us stronger. I'll see you soon.